The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council building glowed against the purple sky of Nexus Prime. Inside the grand chamber, representatives from 12 different alien species sat in their assigned seats. The air buzzed with the sound of translation devices working to convert dozens of languages into something everyone could understand. Admiral Zexithara of the Kelthani Empire stood at the center podium. His blue skin gleamed under the bright lights as he activated a holographic display. The image showed a star map of human space with several red dots blinking in the outer regions of the Sol system. Council members, Zexithara began, his voice echoing through the chamber. Our deep space sensors have detected unusual energy readings from human territory. These signatures are unlike anything we have seen from Earth before. A few alien representatives leaned forward in their seats. Most looked bored. The Vorthak delegate, General Quindal, made a dismissive gesture with his forearms. His insect-like features twisted into what humans might recognize as a smirk. Admiral Zexthara, with respect, "We are talking about humans," Quindal said. His voice sounded like gravel being crushed. Their most advanced ships still use primitive fusion engines. They barely managed to reach their nearest star system last year. What could they possibly be doing that would concern this council? Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The Arcturian ambassador, Lady Velthon, nodded her elegant head. Her people were known for their advanced technology and scientific achievements. She spoke in a voice like music. General Quindal makes a valid point. The energy readings are probably from industrial accidents. Humans are known for their crude mining operations in asteroid fields. They lack the finesse of more developed species. Commander Jake Morrison sat in the small section reserved for Earth's delegation. He was a tall man in his 40s with gray starting to show in his brown hair. His blue military uniform looked simple compared to the exotic clothing worn by other delegates. Next to him sat Lieutenant Commander Lisa Hayes, a woman with short black hair and sharp green eyes. She held a data pad, but had not taken any notes during the discussion. Jake listened to the aliens dismiss his species with practiced calm. He had been Earth's representative to the Galactic Council for 3 years. He had grown used to being treated like a child at an adult meeting. The other species saw humans as newcomers who had barely learned to walk among the stars. "Perhaps we should investigate these readings more closely," suggested Ambassador Corvin of the Zelanti Republic. His people were traders who valued caution in all things. Unknown energy signatures could indicate new technology or even hostile activity. Zexithara nodded. That was my thinking as well. I propose we send a joint investigation team to examine the human outer system. Jake finally stood up. All eyes in the chamber turned to him. Some aliens looked curious. Others seemed annoyed that the human had dared to speak. "Council members," Jake said, his voice carrying clearly through the translation system. "I appreciate your concern for activities in human space. However, I must remind you that Earth has not requested assistance with any internal matters. The energy readings you mention are likely from legitimate human operations." General Quindal laughed, a harsh sound that made several other delegates wince. "Legitimate operations? Commander Morrison, your people have been in space for less than 2 centuries. The Vorthak have traveled between stars for over 10,000 years. We know the difference between normal activity and something unusual." "The General has a point," added Lady Velthon. "Perhaps it would be better if more experienced species took a look at these readings. We could provide guidance to help humans avoid any dangerous mistakes." Jake felt Lisa tense beside him, but he kept his expression neutral. "Thank you for the offer, Lady Velthon. Earth politely declines any inspection of our internal operations." The chamber fell silent for a moment. Then several aliens began talking, at once. The Kelthani admiral looked frustrated. The Vorthak general seemed angry. Other delegates whispered among themselves. "This is exactly the kind of pride that gets young species into trouble," Quindal said, his voice rising. "Humans think they know better than civilizations that mastered space travel before your planet had developed writing." Jake remained standing. "General, Earth has always followed Galactic Council protocols. We maintain our borders. We respect the territorial rights of other species. We participate in trade agreements and diplomatic exchanges. What we do within our own space is our business. Zexathara raised a hand for silence. The Council will now vote on the classification status of humanity. Given recent discussions and observed technological limitations, I propose we classify Earth as a Category 3 developing species. Lisa's hand tightened on her datapad. Category 3 was barely above primitive. It meant humans were considered space-capable, but technologically insignificant. Species with that classification had limited voting rights and could be subjected to outside inspections if deemed necessary. The vote was swift. 10 species voted in favor. Only the Zelanti abstained, and the humans obviously voted against their own downgrade. The motion passes, Zexathara announced. Earth is now classified as Category 3. This session is concluded. As the aliens began filing out of the chamber, Jake noticed several groups clustering together in quiet conversation. They were already making plans that did not include human input. He and Lisa gathered their materials and headed for the exit. Outside the council building, Jake activated a small communication device. The device looked like a standard diplomatic communicator, but it was far more advanced than any alien in the chamber would have suspected. Jake spoke a single coded phrase: "Phoenix Protocol is authorized." The message traveled through quantum encryption networks that the Galactic Council did not know existed. It bounced off hidden relay stations throughout human space before reaching its destination on the far side of Earth's moon. In the heavily shielded depths of Darkside Base, Admiral Rick Carter received the transmission. He was a stern man with silver hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. Next to him stood Dr. Angela Brooks, a brilliant scientist whose work had changed everything humanity thought possible about space travel. Carter looked at the message display and nodded slowly. For 10 years, humanity had played the role of the young, inexperienced species. They had smiled while being patronized. They had accepted limitations imposed by aliens who thought they knew better. They had built their reputation as harmless, newcomers who posed no threat to the established galactic order. All of that was about to change. Carter turned to Dr. Brooks and spoke with quiet certainty. It's time. Deep in the asteroid belt, automated systems that had waited patiently for this moment began to wake up. Massive structures that had been disguised as simple mining stations started powering up their true systems. Ships that no alien species had ever imagined began preparing for activation. The galaxy was about to learn that humans had been far busier than anyone realized. 3 weeks passed since the Galactic Council meeting. Deep in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, something that had slept for years began to wake up. What looked like ordinary mining stations from the outside were actually hiding the greatest secret in human history. Captain Ben Rodriguez floated in the command center of the flagship vessel called Starburst. The ship had been built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, completely hidden from any alien sensors that might scan the area. Ben was the experienced officer who had spent the last 5 years preparing for this moment. His brown eyes watched dozens of screens showing system after system coming online. "Power core is at 60%, reported Chief Engineer Maya Johnson from her station. Maya was a small woman with red hair who understood the ship's systems better than anyone else alive. Her fingers moved quickly across control panels as she brought the massive engines to life. Quantum fold drive is responding normally. All safety systems are green. Colonel Steve Parker coordinated with other ship commanders through secure channels. Steve had been part of the project since the beginning, helping to train crews and develop tactics. His voice was calm as he spoke into his headset. "Shadow Wing reports ready status. Phantom Squadron is completing final checks. Thunder Group is standing by." All around the asteroid belt, 47 ships were waking up from their long sleep. Each vessel was built using technology that had taken humanity 10 years to understand and perfect. The ships did not look like anything the galaxy had ever seen. Their hulls were smooth and dark, made from materials that could bend light around them. Their engines used principles that alien scientists thought were impossible. Dr. Angela Brooks had arrived from Darkside Base to oversee the activation. She stood next to Captain Rodriguez, watching her life's work finally come to reality. "Angela, had discovered the key to quantum fold technology in ancient ruins on Mars. The artifacts found there had changed everything humans thought they knew about physics. The gravitational wave drives are responding perfectly, Angela said, checking her readings. Each ship can now bend space-time itself. We are not just traveling through space anymore. We are making space move around us. Ben nodded as he studied the tactical displays. The supernova fleet was unlike anything that existed in the known galaxy. While alien ships pushed themselves through space using conventional engines, human vessels could fold space itself. They could appear anywhere instantly. They could phase between dimensions. They could become invisible to any known sensor technology. Admiral Carter is requesting a status report, Maya announced from her station. Ben activated the communication system. Admiral Rick Carter's face appeared on the main screen from his command center on the moon. Behind Carter, dozens of officers monitored communications from across human space. Admiral, all systems are operating within normal parameters, Ben reported. The fleet is ready for active operations. Carter looked satisfied but concerned. Captain, we have received disturbing intelligence from our deep space monitoring stations. A large Kelthani battle group is moving toward the Tau Ceti system. Intelligence suggests they plan to remove our colonists from that area. Ben felt anger rise in his chest. Tau Ceti was home to 50,000 human settlers who had built peaceful farming communities on 3 different planets. These people had followed all galactic laws and established their colonies in areas that were supposed to be open to settlement. The Kelthani claim that humans have exceeded their territorial limits, Carter continued. They say our expansion violates agreements made by the Galactic Council. War Admiral Thexmore is leading their first fleet toward Tau Ceti. Maya looked up from her station. Sir, the Kelthani First Fleet has over 40 ships. Their plasma weapons are powerful enough to destroy our colonies from orbit. Steve Parker finished his communication with other squadron leaders and turned to face the group. Our people in Tau Ceti have no way to defend themselves. The colonial defense ships are just converted cargo vessels with basic shields. Dr. Brooks studied her computer displays showing the location of Kelthani forces. The alien fleet will reach Tau Ceti in 18 hours. They expect to find defenseless human settlements and weak colonial ships. Ben smiled grimly as he looked at his command crew. They are going to find something very different. Admiral Carter leaned forward on the screen. Captain Rodriguez, you are authorized to deploy 7 ships to Tau Ceti. Your mission is to protect our colonists and demonstrate that humanity will defend its people. Understood, Admiral, Ben replied. What are our rules of engagement? Defend our colonies. Show the galaxy that humans are not as helpless as they believe. But remember, this will be the first time anyone sees our real capabilities. Make it count. The communication ended and Ben turned to his crew. Maya was already preparing the quantum fold drives for immediate departure. Steve was selecting which ships would accompany them to Tau Ceti. Dr. Brooks was running final checks. On all weapon systems. Maya, prepare for fold space jump, Ben ordered. Steve, signal Radiance, Aurora, Phoenix, Thunder, Lightning, and Storm. They will join us at Tau Ceti. Aye, Captain, Maya responded. Quantum fold drive is charged and ready. We can be at Tau Ceti in 30 minutes. Ben looked out at the asteroid field, where dozens of hidden ships waited for their own missions. For 10 years, humanity had built this fleet in secret. They had pretended to struggle with basic space technology, while actually developing weapons that could reshape the galaxy. The aliens thought humans were primitive newcomers who barely understood space travel. They were about to learn that human engineering had advanced far beyond anything they could imagine. The Kelthani First Fleet expected to find frightened colonists and weak defensive ships. Instead, they would face technology that could bend the laws of physics themselves. All ships prepare for quantum fold jump, Ben announced. Target, Tau Ceti system. It is time to show the galaxy what humans have really been building. Space around the 7 ships began to shimmer and bend. Reality twisted as the vessels prepared to fold space-time and appear instantly across dozens of light years. The hidden war was about to begin. War Admiral Thexmore stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Kelthani battlecruiser Void Striker. Through the main viewing screen, He could see the 3 planets of the Tau Ceti system growing larger as his fleet approached. 41 Kelthani warships moved in perfect formation, their plasma cannons charged and ready for battle. Thexmore was confident this would be an easy victory. Human colonies had no real defenses. Their small patrol ships were converted cargo vessels with weak shields and basic weapons. The humans would surrender quickly when they saw the size of his fleet. "Admiral, we are detecting 7 ships in high orbit around the second planet," reported his sensor officer. "They appear to be human vessels, but the configuration is unknown." Thexmore looked at the tactical display with interest. 7 ships against 41 was still hopeless odds for the humans. But he had never seen ships like these before. They were sleek and dark, with smooth hulls that seemed to absorb light. They held perfect formation without any visible effort. "Interesting," Thexmore said. "Perhaps the humans have built some new patrol ships. It will not matter. Signal the fleet to prepare for battle. On the bridge of the human ship, Radiance, Captain." Amy Foster watched the approaching Kelthani fleet on her screens. Amy was a calm woman with blonde hair and blue eyes who had trained for this moment for 3 years. She knew that what happened in the next few minutes would change galactic history forever. "Kelthani fleet is entering weapons range," reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Kate Ellis. Kate was young but highly skilled at reading enemy ship movements. 41 vessels total. All are armed with plasma cannons and particle beam weapons. Amy nodded and opened a communication channel to the enemy fleet. Her voice was steady and professional as she spoke. "Kelthani vessels, this is Captain Amy, Foster of the Earth Defense Force. You are approaching sovereign human territory. State your intentions." Thexmore received the transmission and almost laughed. The human captain sounded so serious, as if her 7 small ships could actually threaten his battle fleet. He decided to be generous and give the humans a chance to surrender. "Human vessel, I am War Admiral Thexmore of the Kelthani Empire. Your colonies in this system are in violation of territorial agreements established by the Galactic Council. You will evacuate all settlements immediately or face the consequences." Amy looked at her crew on the Bridge of Radiance. Each officer was ready for battle. Behind her, 6 other human ships waited for orders. The moment of truth had arrived. "Negative, War Admiral," Amy replied. "These colonies were established legally in open space. We will not abandon our people. You have 30 seconds to reverse course and leave this system." Thexmore could not believe what he was hearing. A human captain was giving him an ultimatum. His officers on the bridge looked shocked. Some even seemed amused by the humans' boldness. "Foolish humans," Thexmore said. "You have chosen your fate. All ships open fire." The Kelthani fleet unleashed a massive barrage of plasma bolts and particle beams. Bright streams of energy raced across space toward the 7 human ships. It should have been the end of the battle before it truly began. But something impossible happened. The human ships simply were not there anymore. The alien weapons passed through empty space where the vessels had been a moment before. The 7 ships had vanished completely from all sensors. "Where did they go?" demanded Thexmore. "Find them." His sensor officers worked frantically at their stations, but their equipment showed nothing. The human ships had disappeared as if they had never existed. Then space began to shimmer around the Kelthani fleet. The 7 human vessels rematerialized, but now they were scattered throughout the alien formation. They had somehow appeared inside the Kelthani battle group without being detected. "Impossible," whispered Thexmore. "No ship can move that fast." Captain Foster's voice came over the communication system again, now broadcasting to all Kelthani vessels. "This is your final warning. Leave human space immediately." Thexmore was too shocked to respond properly, but his weapons officers were already targeting the nearest human ship. Plasma cannons fired at point-blank range at the vessel called Phoenix. The plasma bolt struck the human ship directly, but instead of exploding, the energy seemed to pass right through the hull without causing any damage. The Phoenix shimmered like a mirage and remained completely undamaged. "Our weapons are not affecting them," reported the Kelthani weapons officer. "The energy is passing through their hulls somehow." Amy Foster had seen enough. The aliens had fired first and refused to leave. Now humanity would show the galaxy what they had really been building for the past 10 years. All ships engage targets, Amy ordered. Use gravitational wave weapons, minimum power settings. The 7 human ships activated weapons that no alien species had ever imagined. Each vessel projected focused gravitational waves that could tear apart matter at the molecular level. The beams were invisible but devastating. The Kelthani flagship shook violently as gravitational forces ripped through its hull. Metal twisted and bent in ways that defied physics. Systems failed throughout the ship as the very atoms of the vessel were pulled apart. "Shields are failing," shouted a Kelthani officer. "Hull integrity is collapsing." Around the battle area, other Kelthani ships were suffering the same fate. The human weapons attacked the basic structure of matter itself. Ship hulls cracked and split. Engine cores shut down as their internal components were destroyed. Weapon systems failed as their power conduits were severed. In less than 4 minutes, 36 Kelthani warships were disabled or destroyed. The remaining 5 vessels, including Thexmore's damaged flagship, tried desperately to escape the battle zone. "All ships retreat," Thexmore ordered. "Emergency jump to hyperspace." As the surviving Kelthani vessels fled, they broadcast emergency signals on all galactic communication frequencies. The messages were panicked and desperate. They spoke of impossible human technology and ships that could bend reality itself. Commander Dan Murphy, commanding the human ship Aurora, intercepted the alien transmissions. "Captain Foster, the Kelthani are broadcasting details of our capabilities across the galaxy. Every species will know about this battle within hours." Amy nodded calmly. That had been part of the plan. Humanity had hidden their true strength for 10 years. Now it was time for the galaxy to learn that humans were no longer the weak newcomers that could be pushed around. "Let them talk," Amy said. "The galaxy needs to understand that humanity will defend its people and its territory. The age of treating humans as primitives is over." News of the battle spread through galactic communication networks faster than any ship could travel. Within 6 hours, every major species knew that humanity had deployed technology that made their own weapons look primitive. The species that had dismissed humans as Category 3 primitives now faced a terrifying new reality. Humanity was far more advanced than anyone had imagined. The news of the Tau Ceti battle spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In the Vorthak home system, General Quindal stared at battle recordings transmitted by the surviving Kelthani ships. His forearms trembled as he watched human vessels phase through plasma bolts and tear apart warships with invisible weapons. "This cannot be real," he said to his advisors. "Humans do not possess such technology. There must be some mistake." But the recordings were clear. 7 human ships had destroyed most of a Kelthani battle fleet in minutes. The weapons they used were beyond anything the Vorthak had ever seen. Quindal immediately ordered the mobilization of the Third Armada. If humans had somehow acquired ancient superweapons, they had to be stopped before they became unstoppable. On the trade world of Kepler Station, Ambassador Claire Thompson found herself in a very different situation than she had faced just days before. Claire was a diplomatic officer who had spent years trying to get alien species to take human proposals seriously. Now she could barely walk through the station without being approached by representatives from a dozen different civilizations. "Ambassador Thompson, the Centauri Republic would like to discuss technology sharing agreements," said Trade Minister Velkanos as she tried to reach her office. "We have much to offer humanity in exchange for information about your new ship designs. The Rigel Syndicate is prepared to offer exclusive trading rights throughout our territory," added another alien diplomat who appeared at her elbow. "We seek only friendship and cooperation with your people." Claire smiled politely but kept walking. Every species that had ignored or dismissed humanity for years was now desperate to make contact. The same aliens who had voted to classify Earth as primitive were now offering alliance proposals and begging for meetings. Back on the hidden lunar base called Darkside, Admiral Rick Carter coordinated humanity's response to the galaxy's sudden attention. Intelligence reports flooded in from human agents throughout known space. Every major civilization was reacting to news of the supernova fleet. The Arcturian hegemony is calling for an emergency session of the Galactic Security Council, reported Intelligence Officer Lieutenant Sarah Kim. Sarah had spent 3 years monitoring alien communications and had never seen activity like this. Lady Velthon is demanding immediate action to contain what she calls the human threat. Dr. Angela Brooks reviewed tactical data at her workstation. The quantum fold technology had performed perfectly in its first real battle, but she was concerned about what came next. Admiral, our intelligence suggests the Arcturians are organizing a coalition response. They view our technological advancement as a threat to galactic stability. Carter nodded grimly. He had expected this reaction. When a supposedly primitive species suddenly revealed advanced capabilities, the established powers would feel threatened. History showed that powerful civilizations often responded to new threats with overwhelming force. "What are the numbers looking like?" Carter asked. "Bad," replied Colonel Steve Parker, who had returned from the asteroid belt to help coordinate fleet movements. The Arcturian hegemony, Vorthak Empire, and Zelanti Republic are all mobilizing their main battle fleets. Early estimates suggest they could assemble over 300 ships. Carter studied the star maps, showing enemy fleet movements. The coalition was forming faster than he had hoped. Humanity had revealed their hand, but now they faced the combined might of half the galaxy's major powers. Captain Ben Rodriguez led a stealth reconnaissance mission to the Arcturus system, where coalition forces were gathering. His ship, Starburst, used its phase shift capabilities to remain completely undetected while observing the massive alien preparations. What his crew discovered was worse than anyone had feared. "Admiral, you need to see this," Ben reported over secure quantum communication. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Kate Ellis, had identified weapons signatures that made her blood run cold. "They are not just planning to contain us, they are preparing for complete extermination." The recordings Ben transmitted showed planet-killer weapons being loaded onto Arcturian dreadnoughts. These were devices capable of destroying entire worlds. From orbit, the coalition was not planning to defeat humanity in battle. They wanted to eliminate the human species entirely. Kate Ellis reviewed the sensor data with growing horror. "Sir, I count at least 12 planet-killer devices. That is enough to destroy every human world and colony." Dr. Brooks received the intelligence reports at Darkside Base and immediately began running calculations. The coalition fleet would reach human space within 2 weeks. The Supernova fleet was technologically superior, but 47 ships could not fight 300 enemy vessels and protect dozens of human worlds at the same time. "We need to consider Protocol Omega," she told Admiral Carter privately. "The fleet alone will not be enough to stop what is coming." Carter had hoped to avoid revealing humanity's full capabilities so soon. Protocol Omega would show the galaxy technology that would reshape their understanding of physics itself. But with planet-killer weapons heading toward Earth, he might have no choice. Meanwhile, on Nexus Prime, Commander Jake Morrison watched as the Galactic Council erupted into chaos. Species that had been allies for centuries were now choosing sides. The revelation of human technology had shattered the existing balance of power. "The humans have violated the fundamental principles of galactic civilization," declared Lady Velthon to the assembled delegates. "No single species should possess such overwhelming technological advantages. They must be stopped before they destabilize everything we have built." But other species were not so sure. The Zelanti Republic, known for their careful approach to all decisions, had withdrawn from the coalition after seeing the battle recordings. Ambassador Corvin stood to address the council. "Perhaps we should ask why the humans developed such capabilities in secret," Corvin said. "What threat did they perceive that required such advanced defensive systems?" Jake Morrison listened to the debates and realized that the galaxy was splitting into 2 camps. Some species saw humanity as a threat that had to be eliminated. Others were beginning to question whether the existing galactic order was as stable as they had believed. As the council session devolved into arguments, Jake received a coded message from Admiral Carter. The coalition fleet was larger than expected and was carrying planet-killer weapons. Humanity would have to reveal capabilities that would shock the galaxy even more than the Supernova fleet. The real war was about to begin, and it would determine whether humanity survived to see another year among the stars. The galaxy had underestimated humans once. They would not make that mistake again. But their response might destroy everything in the process. Admiral Carter made his decision. Protocol Omega would be activated. The galaxy was about to learn that the supernova fleet had been only the beginning of humanity's preparations for survival. The coalition fleet of over 300 ships moved toward human space like a deadly storm. Arcturian dreadnoughts, Vorthak battlecruisers, and Zelanti destroyers traveled together in the largest military force the galaxy had seen in 1,000 years. At the center of the formation, 12 massive vessels carried planet-killer weapons designed to end the human threat forever. Admiral Rick Carter stood in the command center of Darkside Base, watching displays that showed the approaching enemy fleet. The coalition would reach the outer edge of the Sol system in 6 hours. In 12 hours, they would be close enough to start destroying human worlds. All fleet commanders are standing by, reported Colonel Steve Parker. Captain Rodriguez is requesting permission to begin hit-and-run attacks on the enemy formation. Carter shook his head. Not yet. We need them to come closer first. Dr. Angela Brooks worked at her control station, preparing systems that had never been tested in actual combat. Protocol Omega was humanity's greatest secret, hidden even deeper than the supernova fleet. What they were about to reveal would change galactic civilization forever. Admiral, all orbital platforms are ready, Angela announced. The gravitational field generators are charged and standing by. Stellar manipulation systems are online. Throughout human space, massive installations that had been disguised as ordinary space stations began revealing their true nature. These platforms had been built over 10 years using technology found in the same Martian ruins that created the supernova fleet. Each platform could generate artificial gravitational fields powerful enough to move planets. They could create miniature black holes that lasted for minutes. They could even trigger controlled stellar events in nearby stars. Captain Amy Foster positioned the supernova fleet at the edge of the solar system, but she was not planning to wait for the enemy to arrive. The 47 human ships prepared to do something that no military force in galactic history had ever attempted. All ships prepare for multi-system phase shift jump, Amy ordered over the fleet communication system. We are taking the fight to them. Using their quantum fold drives, the human ships disappeared from the Sol system and reappeared simultaneously across a dozen different star systems where coalition forces had staging areas. The strategy was unlike anything alien commanders had planned for. Instead of defending human territory, the fleet was attacking the enemy's supply lines and rear positions. Captain Ben Rodriguez led his squadron in a strike against Vorthak supply depots in the Rigel system. His ships phased through defensive shields and used their gravitational wave weapons to disable entire space stations in minutes. The Vorthak defenders could not even target ships that could appear and disappear at will. Meanwhile, Commander Dan Murphy attacked Arcturian shipyards in 3 different systems simultaneously. His vessels used their ability to phase between dimensions to bypass all defenses and strike at the heart of enemy production facilities. The psychological effect was devastating. Coalition commanders realized that human ships could appear anywhere at any time. No location was safe. No defensive position could stop vessels that could bend space and time itself. Admiral Thekvar of the Arcturian hegemony commanded the main coalition fleet from his flagship Dominion. He watched in growing panic as reports came in from across Arcturian space. Human ships were striking dozens of targets at once, appearing out of nowhere and vanishing before his forces could respond. How can they be in so many places at the same time? He demanded of his tactical officers. Our intelligence said they only had 47 ships. The answer came when Dr. Brooks activated the first phase of Protocol Omega. The orbital platforms, hidden throughout human space, began broadcasting on all galactic communication frequencies. Commander Jake Morrison spoke for all humanity from the bridge of a diplomatic vessel. Citizens of the galaxy, Jake began, his voice carrying across hundreds of star systems. For too long, the established powers have treated smaller species as subjects rather than equals. They have imposed limitations and threatened violence against anyone who challenged their authority. As Jake spoke, the orbital platforms began demonstrating their capabilities. One platform near Jupiter created A controlled gravitational anomaly that bent space visibly around it. Another platform near Saturn generated a miniature black hole that lasted for exactly 60 seconds before safely dissipating. Humanity developed these capabilities not for conquest, but for protection. Jake continued. We learned from our own history that peace through strength is often the only path to lasting peace. The demonstrations had their intended effect. Coalition ship commanders watched in terror as human platforms manipulated the fundamental forces of the universe itself. These were not just advanced weapons. This was technology that could reshape reality. Captain Foster coordinated the final phase of the operation. The Supernova fleet phase shifted back to the Coalition fleet's location and took positions throughout their formation. But instead of attacking, the human ships activated their gravitational wave drives in a new configuration. Space-time began to distort around the entire Coalition fleet. The enemy ships found themselves trapped in a gravitational bubble that prevented them from moving or using their weapons. They were completely helpless, suspended in warped space while the human fleet surrounded them. Coalition vessels, Amy announced over open communication channels. You came here to destroy human worlds and eliminate our species. Your own weapons tell us your intentions, but we will not become the monsters you fear. The gravitational fields. Holding the Coalition fleet began to pulse in a specific pattern. Amy was using the distortion field to send a message that every ship in the fleet could feel in their hulls. Humanity offers peace to those who respect our sovereignty. We seek cooperation, not domination. But we will defend our right to exist among the stars. Slowly, the gravitational fields began to release the Coalition ships. The alien vessels found themselves free to move again, but they made no hostile moves. The demonstration of humanity's true power had been overwhelming. Admiral Thekver stared at the human ships surrounding his fleet and realized that everything had changed. His 300 ships were helpless against technology that could manipulate space and time itself. The Coalition had come to eliminate a threat, but they had discovered that humanity was far beyond anything they could challenge. Over the following hours, Coalition commanders began requesting permission to withdraw. The Vorthak Empire was the first to officially stand down, followed by the Zelanti Republic. Even the proud Arcturian hegemony eventually agreed to negotiate rather than face destruction. Dr. Brooks addressed the reformed Galactic Council via quantum communication from Darkside Base. Her words carried the promise of a new era for galactic civilization. We developed these capabilities because we knew that a young species must be strong to survive among older powers. But now that we have proven our strength, we want to build something better together. Commander Jake Morrison returned to the Galactic Council not as a representative of a primitive species, but as an equal partner in shaping the galaxy's future. The balance of power had shifted permanently. Humanity had claimed its place among the stars not through conquest, but through the revelation of capabilities that no one had seen coming. The final scene showed Admiral Carter and Dr. Brooks watching Earth rise over the lunar horizon from Darkside Base. The immediate crisis was over, but humanity's journey among the stars was just beginning. They had surprised the galaxy once. Now they would help build a better future for all species willing to embrace change.